Welcome to Mind Out Loud, because life's a mess, and we're here to spill every bit of it. No filter, no shame. So this has just been an idea that I've had for a while. As I've gotten older, I've started to realize that what I used to just write off as mood swings may actually be something a bit more than mood swings. Because as I've aged, things have developed into what I like to call my dark clouds. These are some issues that I had for a while. A lot of friends have said you need to talk to somebody. And that's what led me here to this podcast that my friend Lori and I, who I'll introduce in just a minute, immediately calling The Balanced Mind. My wife jokingly said, maybe I should call it my effed up brain. And I don't disagree with her. I just
love that wit of hers, because
I do too.
There is something to be said, Nick, about comic relief. So
yeah. And getting people's attention. It works that way too. She was saying, what podcast would you rather listen to? The Balanced Mind or my effed up brain? I couldn't disagree with her.
That one would grab your eyes a little bit faster.
Yeah. But quickly, my name is Nick Calderone. I've been in the television and entertainment industry for 30 years. I knew Lori, and you know what, Lori, just kind of introduce yourself briefly too, and we'll kind of discuss how this all came together.
Yes. Okay. So my first career was in television news as well. And I was in it for 13 years. So I started in Utah, doing cut-ins and time-ins there. And then I went to, as an anchor reporter, to Washington. I was there for 2 years. Then I was an anchor reporter in Tucson, there for 2 years. Then 7 years here in the Valley at KPHO, debuting their morning show in 1997, and then morphing that into reporter and anchor. And I did that for 7 years. And then 3 became 5, or 3 and 5 came together.
Right. So that's Lori Raymond. And the funny part about this is I'm on LinkedIn, and I had a long time job as a television host for a show called Right This Minute. Right This Minute ended about almost 3 years ago, and I found myself kind of spat out into the world of unemployment. And my mood swings started to develop into some pretty serious dark cloud moments. And one day I just happened to see Lori's profile on LinkedIn, and it said that she was a therapist. And I thought, wow, maybe this is the universe telling me, here's my chance to get some help with the issues that I'm dealing with by talking to a colleague, a friend, somebody who left the news business and went on to do something for yourself. I imagine this was a career move that you wanted to make. Tell me about that jump, and then we'll get back to kind of this, what I saw as a bit of kismet.
Yes. Okay. So around my late 30s, I was noticing a little bit of a shift. Now, I loved television news. It was very exciting, very fast paced. People are very interested in that. The daily grind started to wear on me, and I had 4 children. So I just thought I want to continue telling stories, but there's this deep, compassionate part of me as well. And by the way, I've also experienced some pretty dark, difficult days, and had difficulty sharing that with other people because it's so known as a weakness. But then at age 40, I thought I need to understand what's going on, and I would love to be able to, in the process, help others know as well. It's just not talked about enough, not anywhere near enough, because it's considered a sign of weakness. So I went back to school at age 40, and I got my master's degree in the science of counseling. So you can get one in the arts of counseling. I want to do the science of counseling because I'm interested in brain chemistry. It's clear, Nick, right? Is it not clear that some people have an ability to have a great outlook on life almost without trying? Now, that's an exception. Most people have to work. You have to put the work in to be able to see the good in life, and it's everywhere, even when we are experiencing exceptionally dark days. But it's not easy if your brain is not naturally set up for that. So I wanted to understand what's happening so that I can know how to then address that either pharmaceutically with hormones, diet and exercise, whatever the case may be, then implement those with coping skills, psychology, neuroscience modalities, and I'm trained in both of those as well. And that's just brought me to where I am 15 years later. Mm-hmm.
See, and that was exciting to me. I saw that here's a person that went through a bit of what I went through. I did 13 years in local news too. And as awesome as that career is, I got to do great things, but there comes some stress with that job. The time stress, the stress of just really seeing some horrible things as well. So I saw you pop up, and that was just my maybe the kick in the ass that I needed to reach out to somebody and get some help. We met for lunch. Lori and I met for lunch. We had a fantastic conversation. However, you were like, look, I can't be your therapist. And can you explain to me and to the listeners why you can't sit down and what I like to call fix me?
Yeah, of course. Sorry, my dog's getting on the couch, but you can't see him. So yeah.
We'd love to see him.
Next show. Okay. We worked hard getting this all set up. Anyway, yeah. So you would naturally think, well, come on, Lori, we've been friends for so long and we go so far back. However, I learned from some very reputable, amazing people that neutrality is essential. Neutrality is essential if you want to be a therapist. See, that's my dog. Sorry. Okay. Neutrality is essential if you are going to be helpful in any way, shape, or form as a therapist. Because if I already know you, Nick, then there are going to be influences that come into my mind, or maybe because you remembered me so fondly back then, I'm still concerned that you remember me fondly now. Instead of saying, Nick, it really seems to me in a loving way, you can do it in a supportive way, but a firm way. Say to the client, I hear you say one thing, but I continually see you do another. So you have to be neutral to be able to stay in your lane and focus on the data and the relational rapport, the professional rapport.
Got it. Me being the guy that I guess maybe tries to find different ways of doing things, I mildly reject that reality and substitute my own and suggested, well, maybe we could do a podcast. Maybe you could make some suggestions out of the things that you hear me say. Maybe if I'm completely open, it sounds easy to say, but maybe if I can put myself out there in a way that other people listening to me say, gosh, Nick sounds just like me, or those issues sound very familiar, then maybe instead of a therapy session between you and I, which can happen, perhaps then this platform could be sort of an experiment, sort of a way to help me a little bit as best you can, advise, maybe put me in touch with the right people that I need to talk to work through some of these things. Maybe picking your brain with some of the science of it all then somehow I could find the help, the therapy, the things that would help me cope with some of the black clouds that I talk about. And along the way, use this as a tool for others. Because, like everybody that I've talked to, well, you're not alone. You're not the only one. There's many people. Well, really? Because I feel awfully alone
Mm,
when
I know.
these clouds blow in, when I feel useless and hopeless and without a career path at 51 years old and wondering, what do I do now? How
Yeah.
do I fix it? Am I broken? Um, and that's one of the weird things I wanted to put to you. You know, Lori, there are days where I feel broken. And so many people say to me, well, everybody goes through these things. You know, everybody needs to talk to somebody. Everybody needs to work through stuff. And as much as I feel like something is wrong, I don't want to admit it. I don't want
Yeah.
I
Mhm.
don't want to know the hard work that you're probably going to tell me it's going to take to feel like I have a balanced mind.
Mhm. It depends on how much you're suffering. And only you know, you and I bet Rosalie, your wife, right? Because these are not things that are easy to share, especially for our men. And I know I'm generalizing here, but if you just think about the way in which society, the messages that have been given to men from the get go, on the playground at age 5, if you fell off the monkey bars and started to cry, what were you called? A crybaby, a girl, or there was someone I knew named Ryan, and his nickname forever was Crying Ryan.
Yeah.
So you're not. It's not manly. It's not show. It's not. You're not being man enough to be able to when you show emotions, and that does a disservice to men and women, because women, it's done to women in other ways. You're psycho. You're crazy. How about I'm being assertive and I'm not being heard. The less I'm heard, the louder I get. So it's not well accepted. So I understand your reticence in not knowing who to go to and who to trust with this information. Often it's used against you. That's changing, but we have a long way to go.
But I it's interesting that you say uh going back to school and the trauma and the things that we go through. And I've heard that stuff, and there's a part of me that almost does it to myself. Like, get
Sure.
over it, you pussy. You're 41 or 51 years old. We all went through the playground BS. It's part of being human.
Right.
So there's a part of me that wants to push back on you and that idea and say, well, come on.
Mhm.
At this point in my life, I don't know if that's what's bugging me, but it was formative. It helped me become who I am, and get over it, Calderone, right?
And you think about it, there definitely is value to that, because there certainly are times life is not easy. We know this. We have to work hard for our achievements. So definitely there's something to be said for that. And then you and I are similar in age, and raised by people who worked very hard and had to suck it up and make it work. So there's an element of truth and value to that. Persistence, hard work, determination, get up and go, got it. And yet there's another part that needs to be brought in and valued just as much. And that is, where do I put all of this trapped, distressing emotion? We have to be able to meet somewhere in the middle. When we think about addiction, when we think about whether that's drugs or sex, there are some people who cannot stay faithful even though they want their marriages to succeed. There are gambling, shopping, binging, purging, or even the addiction, and I can explain that later, of depression or anxiety. Uh, Most of that, if not all, comes from the stuffing down and ignoring of all of these distressing emotions. We don't know what to do with them.
I hear that. and and I, as much as I want to feel better, as much as I don't want these dark clouds, these and when I say dark, let me explain a little bit. Hopefully, uh, these roller coasters of emotions that kind of blow in on me
Yeah.
For no reason.
Yeah.
I could have a great day, and then all of a sudden, it's like, the shit just closes in for no reason, and I feel like I want to punch a kitten. I can't explain it. I don't want to be happy. I don't want to do the things that supposedly make it better. Oh, go exercise, talk to somebody, do something. You're like, no, I don't want to. And those black clouds have lasted longer and longer. Some days it'll be, some be 3 days of just doom, where I just feel like I am completely useless, worthless, and a little fatalistic, if that sounds.
Yeah. One of the, oh, I'm sorry, I cut you off.
No, continue.
Okay. So it does become frightening, doesn't it? When those increase in gravity and duration, correct?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So then we have to ask ourselves if what I have been doing in the past is working. It's not. It's not working. No. And so we can stay the course and say, suck it up, soldier, and just get over it, you wuss. Okay. But is that working? No. So we can continue to value that, keep trying and keep getting back up on your horse. That's true. So, but we need to hold space for both. Then we figure out what is happening. And I think it's mainly two-pronged. Yes, it's all about having a safe place to talk, blah, 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 blah. But it's much more than light and fluffy psychobabble. What is going on in the brain chemistry? This is no longer a blind leap into the abyss of guessing. We now have DNA testing where you can find out what is happening in your brain, genes that are responsible for mood regulation and mood elevation. So
that's exciting to me. That's exciting to me. When you mentioned that to me, I really lit up, because I am scientific. I do sink my teeth into things that have some testing and some background and then some legitimacy. So I was excited and curious about that, because when you mentioned it, I thought to myself, okay, and I don't know if using the term broken is the correct term. I mean, that's how I feel, so that's how I explain it.
We don't like that, but anyway, I don't want to interrupt you. Yeah.
No, I had a feeling you weren't going to like that term, right. But I have to use it for now because that's just how it feels.
Yeah, and you got to be you. So I get it. Yeah.
But that would be really interesting to me if there is some sort of test or diagnostic that allows me to dig inside and say, okay, you're not broken. Your brain processes things differently. And I think I would have an easier time accepting advice from someone like you, if there was something to work toward a little bit. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. It has been such guesswork for so long that it can seem just hopeless. So I med jumped, with professionals even before I would for 30 years is what I'm trying to say, off and on, trying to figure out what medication do I need. And this one made life worse. And I was already trying exercise and eating well and meditation, all of those things. But when those as you say, dark clouds, or what's the term you use? I want to use that one. That's
Um, my black cloud
no,
is
the boo ratty or something like that.
Boo Radley. Yeah,
Boo
it was
Radley, I love that. When the
my
Boo
Boo
Radley,
Radley days.
yes, yes. When the Boo Radley days come, and then they stay, and they feel so oppressive, like they infiltrate you.
Yeah,
I know some people who don't understand this are going to think, "Oh gosh, she's so dramatic." It's not if you're experiencing it. It's scary.
yeah, and
So,
it has for me, it has a snowball effect because, oh, great, here I go feeling crappy for no reason. I feel guilty that I feel crappy for no reason because when I look around at my life, I don't really have much to complain about. I have a home, I have a car, I have a beautiful wife. Wah, poor me. That's where and then it's a feedback loop of get off the couch, you little bitch, and get to work. But I feel crummy.
yeah.
And so, yeah.
So I know that's why this is tough, Nick, because it's the balance of both of those. Some of it is true. Get off the couch, you little bitch. Yes, some of that's true. However, the whole toxic shame thing never worked, and some of our listeners and viewers may not understand what that means. There is a very important difference between healthy guilt, which is for us to grow and learn and then move on, carrying that lesson forward. So it simply says, oh, okay, I made a mistake. I stayed in bed way too long. I made a mistake. Over here, toxic shame says that I am one. That never helps. That never helps. Whatever we're trying to overcome and gain emotional health back is not to be mean to ourselves. And I get it. I get it. I get it. People are our age are going to go back to the Saturday Night Live and the Stuart Smalley. And when they say, doggone it, I love myself. I get it. It's funny and it seems so sappy, but there is proof from PET scans of the brain. When you talk to yourself kindly, you have more emotional health, period.
Yeah. And I don't disagree with that. I don't deny that. I'm sure that's 100%. But my default is the negative. My default is to beat myself up. I'm my own worst enemy. My wife will tell you that. And I guess I just don't know how to overcome that. And that has definitely creeped into so many different parts of my life. I know I have professionally kind of screwed myself in ways, financially, by not believing my own self-worth. It has permeated so many different aspects. In professional settings where I have these black clouds, or I'm doubtful of myself. I am sometimes mean to other people because of I'm trying to hide my own shortcomings, and so that causes problems. This is where I feel broken, where I feel like I'm a mess.
Mm-hmm. But if you only knew how many of us therapists hear this so much, this is why I believe our show will be a success, because this needs to spread far and wide. And let me just backtrack a little bit. I don't get, nor will I ever take, any money from these DNA testing. I just want people to be able to feel well. And so there must be a balance between what's going on in my brain chemistry and how do I put in these skills. So over the years, I've often gone to therapists, and they'll give me skill after skill after skill. And I'm not saying they were not valuable. They worked some of the time. But on those days when I felt such despair, it's very difficult to I couldn't even assign it to something. It scared me. And none of those coping skills worked. That's because I needed to figure out chemically what was happening. And finally I did in 2020, when a friend Dr. K, whom I work with, shared me this piece of information, and I found out many different things on 24 of the genes that were analyzed. And one was there, it's called the I think I told you, MTHFR gene deficiency. And that means you need a scientist to explain it correctly, but it talks about 3 of the feel-good hormones: norepinephrine, dopamine, and serotonin. Those don't synthesize. They don't mix. So like if you have a bowl of ingredients, you have the eggs here and the flour here and the sugar here, but nothing to mix it with. You can't make a cake. So what do you need? Okay, I have that. What do I do about it? Well, the answer was you need methylated L-methylfolate, which is already broken down. I can't take supplements for this particular thing. It won't work. My body does not absorb it. So I take the already broken down kind as prescribed by my psychiatrist, or they have over-the-counter brands. You just have to see which one works for you, but check with your doctor, and it will synthesize those 3. Not saying that it makes your life suddenly beautiful, but you can then work the coping skills more easily.
That's interesting. And that's the kind of thing I hope I can figure out for myself. Maybe folks that are listening can figure out. And yeah, I think as we progress through this show, selfishly, and I've been very forthcoming with you, I want to work through some of my issues through this show with your help, with help from some of the therapists in your office over at Family Strategies. That's where Lori Raymond works. And in that process, hopefully other people can hear something that helps them. But I thought to myself this morning before we started recording, maybe this will be effective for me because I'm working at it in an environment that I'm familiar with, which is media.
Right.
I've been doing media for 30 years, as a television cameraman. I became a reporter. I bounced around to a couple different stations, landed here in Phoenix for Channel 12, and did a lot of journalism, did a lot of storytelling, and that was great. Started a production company after I left the news business, because the news business just got to be a little bit too stressful for not enough money.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Right. But then after that, I got into a TV show called Right This Minute, which some people, if they're listening, you may have seen. It was nationally syndicated for 11 years, and we talked about the best internet videos of the day. And I had some wonderful co-hosts who, if they ever listen to this, I probably owe some apologies to them for some of my behavior over the years. I'm pretty sure they liked me for the most part. But yeah, there were days that I had to go in and talk about, cute cat videos, and there was a storm raging in my head. And you just have to bite the bit, smile, and go on TV because, at the peak of our show, we were broadcast to, 1.5 million people a day who were tuning into our show to get their smiles.
Yeah.
And that show ended. And like I said at the beginning, that became a big part of my identity. I'm the guy on the TV show. And I felt really good about that. I felt like I had really become something. Not too many people get to have a TV show. And I did it.
Well, especially a nationally syndicated TV show. And for 11 years, we know how fickle the industry is. If you do anything for a stretch of 3 years, that's considered a long time. 11 and nationally is a huge deal. And so winning Emmys, all of these accolades, being on nationally syndicated shows for 11 years, that's amazing. And to have it crash is traumatic. Let's just call it what it is, right?
Yeah.
I'm not being too dramatic, am I?
I don't know.
I'm that I'm not, but many men have a difficult time talking about it. The reason I bring this up, Nick, is what you're doing by using your vulnerability in a courageous way. And I mean that because it takes courage to be vulnerable. It is not the opposite. You will be giving a gift to thousands and thousands of men who feel this way, but think that they're broken because they're not supposed to feel this way. How is anybody supposed to heal when they're having feelings that they're not supposed to have? So you sharing this in situ, in vivo, that's a gift. That's a gift.
And see, okay, my internal default is to respond back to you like, no, like tamp that down, because I'm thinking of the people.
Magic fairy dust.
Yeah. Well, I'm thinking again, poor me, wah, wah, oh, my TV show went away. When I'm thinking about people who might be listening who lost a loved one,
Yeah.
or, lost so much more.
Mhm.
My trauma, if you want to call it that, is nothing. So what? You lost a job. Go find another one. And I hate to admit that it's not been that easy for me.
Right.
And I don't know why it hasn't been. And then there comes the shame.
Yes.
Because up until this point, my career was, I attacked it. I saw what was next. I was able to see the next step, leap and go and make it happen. And now that's not happening. And I've got a wife with a beautiful, sunny disposition that I feel so guilty for bringing my dark cloud into her life, because I don't want to dim her light. And that's a whole another episode. We can talk about that at a different, but there comes that shame, the fear, the anxiety, the lack of self-worth. And it, again, you snowball down into that dark cloud. Right.
So once again, this comes up over and over and over again. You are right. You're right. I mean, look at the images on the news. The migrants coming in, they're climbing the walls. The 300,000 children are missing. The war-torn Israel, Gaza Strip, Ukraine, Russia. You're right. And okay, so this is true right here. We're going to hold space for both, right, Nick? We're going to hold space for both. You're going to try with me. I'm going to make you try. Okay. So this is true. Here's the other part. This is why no one talks about it.
Yeah.
There's so much intense suffering going on. I have no right to feel this way. Does that help you get out of it?
No.
No, not alone. Now, sometimes it might, if you just, make yourself go out and go play basketball. Okay, that will help. Over time, it doesn't sustain itself because we need more education, number one. We need to learn how to handle toxic shame. We need to know that we deserve to feel okay, even though we are far more blessed than many people we can see. The blessings that you have, yes, and yes, we should practice gratitude. They don't take away an internal storm if you have certain things going on in your brain chemistry. We have to include all of these things, including what you talked about. Yes, we're fortunate, yes. But using shame to get us out of this dark cloud or the Boo Radley days, it doesn't help. It only creates more of it, which in turn often creates addiction.
Yeah, that's definitely something I'd like to get into in future episodes as well. I grew up, I lost a half brother to suicide when I was a baby, 3 years old. And there was some drug use that contributed to that, among other things. But I grew up with a father who always said to me, don't do drugs. Don't do that to me. Please don't disappoint me. And I never did. I grew up a good kid. I was a nerd. And later in life, and I always looked upon people that did drugs. I looked down at that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
As I've gotten older, I've tried marijuana. I have loved it because if I'm being quite candid, on those black cloudy days, I could sit there in my dirty diaper and stew and be miserable, or I can have a gummy and those clouds will go away and I can feel much better. And it was at that moment where I was like, oh, now I get it.
Exactly.
I completely get how addiction takes hold. I completely understand the allure of an escape. And my mind changed. But I also feel guilty sometimes because I think of my dad and I wonder, would he be really disappointed?
Okay. Well, okay. So the metamorphosis that you went through, I love that, because it's so easy to be young and inexperienced and full of judgment for anyone who resorts to drugs. I don't know very many people who, at the age of, let's just say, when they were asked in high school what they want to be, I want to be an addict and I want to live on the streets. No, they're covering up suffering, and they don't know who to talk to, because once again, all of the shaming messages of, I should be able to get past this. I am so blessed. Okay, all those things might be true in some space of or one piece of the puzzle, or maybe even a couple, but it's only a portion of what's necessary and needed. So removing judgment of other people is really good, because usually we too intensely judge other people because we too intensely judge ourselves.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that is definitely true in my case. Lori, we've got a lot to talk about. And
I can't wait to cover all of our subjects that we got. Yeah,
I agree. And some of the things that we were talking about as far as subjects we want to cover is just really baking it down to the basics. Stress, rejection, fear, imposter syndrome, ego, self-worth, purpose, aging, trauma. Those things I really want to dig into episode after episode. And hopefully somewhere along the way, I learned some coping mechanisms. I know I would love to dig into some more of your life and some of the things that you went to, and as much as you're willing to share, because I also find you very intriguing. The fact that you went through so much and have been through so much, and then went to school to learn the science of psychology. I'm fascinated by that. And I am fascinated by the idea that you've been able to manage what you've gone through and now also use that to try and help others. I find that you perfectly embody the balanced mind idea.
Well, I appreciate that, Nick, because when you meet someone else who knows, and you and I know what it's like to, not all of the time, look at what we've achieved, but know what it's like to have this almost like invisible force dragging you down with chains to the bottom of the ocean. You don't want to tell anyone that, because it's embarrassing and it fuels toxic shame. So once I understood more and more and more of what was happening, I thought, I gotta get this out. I gotta get this out there, because for so long, let's just say I could point the finger at external sources making me feel that way. And I have 10. Let's point all 10 outward, right? Okay. But that's not what we do. We point all 10 this way when we're feeling like we can't get out of this muck. That helps no one, including your loved ones who watch you suffer. And that this is the very breeding ground for intense isolation. And then let's just go to worst case scenario, suicide, like you experience with a family member. We do not want this to have any more air. Or let me back up a little bit. I heard this analogy before. It's like mold that grows in a dark, dark, moist basement, right? And it just thrives in that environment because it's a secret.
Yeah.
And secrets make us sick. We're ripping the roof off of that. We're letting the sunlight in and the chips fall where they fall. But we are talking about this. Enough of all this hidden in secrecy crap. No, let's put it out there in the open and let's find some solutions.
I'm excited about that. And I'm excited for people to listen to what we have to say. I know there's a lot of options out there for self-help, for mindfulness, however you want to talk about it.
Yeah.
And I almost didn't go through with this idea. In fact, Lori, about a week ago, I was like, I'm doubtful. I was in a black cloud and I thought, well, who needs to hear me? Who needs another, mental health podcast? But I had looked for podcasts. I had looked for something to listen to, and I found there's great people out there with great information, but nothing really seemed to talk the way I wanted to talk, what I wanted to hear. So I thought, well, who knows? If there's one person out there that resonates with what I have to say and what you have to say, then maybe that's a good thing. And maybe we should continue and with the balanced mind and just talk it through. And at the end of the day, maybe it'll just help me.
And the wonderful, I referenced the gift before, gift that you're giving to those to whom it's meant to be received, is that you're doing this, Nick, from here going forward. For too many people, including me, I could only discuss it when I was out of the abyss and it goes back. Now I'm fine. So now let's talk all about it. You have the courage. And I'm telling you, that takes courage. I know almost no one who's able to do it while they're in it and then expose it to everyone. That's going to be an amazing help, a network of spiderweb help to people who are too afraid to say anything. So let it evolve as it goes. That's cool, Nick.
I'll share as much as I can. There is definitely a part of me that is terrified to do this. There's a part of me that wonders, am I sabotaging future career opportunities because I'm airing my effed up brain? So I wonder, but what I do know is what I've done for the past 3 or so years. And when I think about it, my whole life, I know I've shot myself in the foot. So I guess if I do want to try and give myself a small pat on the back, I'm trying to do something good for myself in a way that I know how.
Yes. And just think of it like this, Nick. Who is embarrassed when they have to get treatment for a heart condition that will allow them to live if they just stay on this particular treatment? Pretty much no one. But when it comes to mental health, oh, that's not me. I'm fine. I would like to think that employers have evolved to the point where they understand that everybody has a state of emotional health and everyone has a state of physical health. We need to normalize what is our internal state of emotional health just as much as we do the physical. They are so interconnected. Let's do that.
Okay. Just a taste of what we hope to bring to this show. We mentioned some of the topics that we want to get into in the future, and we hope you come along on this journey with us. I hope I echo some of your thoughts and feelings. And reach out to us. We'd love to hear what you're thinking. If something that I say sounds familiar, or if you have questions for Lori, we'd love to know. We'd love to hear it. And I will be as forthcoming and open and genuine as I possibly can. And we'll, hopefully you'll see me grow, overcome, and go through some stuff.
Yes.
So thank you, Lori, for joining me. I know we're going to meet some of your colleagues in the future, and I'm excited to go through all of this.
Yes, we have anywhere from 25 to 30 therapists, depending on incoming and outgoing, a few interns, but about 25 or 26 specialists trained in many different areas. And some of the stuff that we were discussing today that changes the brain chemistry. I just want to make a quick note of that these have been around for EMDR, eye movement desensitization and reprocessing has been around for around 25, 30 years. But it changes the neural pathways in your brain. So and we want to attach those to thinking more positively. So it's more than just talk therapy. It's more than just cognitive behavior therapy. We're involving neuroscience. Another one that recently came out, and then I'll stop because I'm so excited about this. But one more thing, accelerated resolution therapy is accelerated. It's a faster way to change the neural pathways and your brain chemistry. And this is without medicine, by the way. Now, some people need both. I'm not anti-medicine. I'm on it for anxiety, yes. But it was remarkable to see the scanning of a brain before and the scanning of a brain after. It then makes it more possible for the human being carrying that brain to implement all the coping skills that we teach.
I'm excited. I hope I get to do something like that, because it does, for my more logistical, mechanical man brain, that sounds like, okay, great. You gave me a diagnostic. You gave me a baseline or a goal. That's interesting. I can't wait to get into that stuff. Lori, thank you for understanding that this idea could be something fun and intriguing and educational. And I'm excited to do all this with you. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm excited to do it with you too, Nick. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.